All right, everybody. 2 days of NBA free agency are in the books. Your Boston Celtics, they're not going to look the same. In fact, it's going to look really, really strange. So, we're going to talk about everything that's happening with the Celtics, or in some people's perspectives, not happening with the Celtics. And then we'll take a look around the league as there's been quite a bit of movement, probably not quite as much as Shams wants you to believe, but there has been some interesting moves for us to talk about. So, we've had 2 days to soak it all in. We've got tons of stuff to react to. So if you're joining us live here, make sure you jump in the chat. Otherwise, sit back, relax. You guys know the deal. This is Green with Envy. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy, an NBA reaction free agency edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me, as he does each and every time, best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, fresh off his vacation from Boston, it is the one and only Greg Manakis. Greg, good to have you back on the show.
Dude, it was great to see you chopping it up with our guy Kari, and shout out to Nick NBA for coming on the last pod and giving some good breakdowns. Dude, I feel like the last couple of pods that Kari has been on, I haven't been on, which is funny because Kari's like my guy, and now Kari's.
I know. I'm swooping in. I'm swooping in. Kari's my connect now.
I know I got a little jealous when I saw him. I was like, oh shit, okay, well, I see how it is. But yeah, it was great to hear both of those guys. I know you've been trying to get me to talk with Nick for a while. His breakdowns are awesome on YouTube. So if you don't subscribe to Nick's YouTube channel, make sure you do. Nick NBA. I think it's _Nick NBA. Nik NBA. Shout out to Nick for coming on the show, man. Those are great episodes.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's one of those things where, it just so happened to be that last week turned into a busy week, right? Like we have no idea when that's going to happen, and especially, with our schedules, we just have to kind of work around it. And last week ended up being just like the draft, multiple trades, everything that we're going to kind of rehash today now that we have a little bit of perspective. And, Greg and I kind of debated, when should we do this free agency? Should we do it tomorrow? Now, there was a lot of podcasts that went live during free agency at the end of yesterday. And both Greg and I think this is something that you and I just kind of given the audience a little view into how we think of putting out our content. We're better when we have a moment to breathe and kind of think about it. Right. Yeah. Like we've talked about, there's some games that are just so big, we have to go live and give 30 minutes of just, right off the top of the dome, like
stream of consciousness, incoherence.
Exactly. But by far, our better podcasts are, oh, cool, we have a day and we know we have a guest coming, or cool, we have a night to think about what actually just happened, and then go back and be like, oh, yeah, maybe this is a big deal, this isn't a big deal, and just have much more thoughtful, conversation. And so that's the way we approach this. And so here we are, Tuesday night as opposed to Monday evening, to give you our thoughts on everything that's happening. Greg, should I just kind of, because we're going to start with the Celtics and then we'll kind of branch it out to the NBA as a whole.
Yeah.
So let me just kind of set the scene, and then I want to let you rip for a minute here, because like I said, we just talked about, I was on last week with two different episodes to give some thoughts. So I want you off the dome. And if you haven't been following us on Instagram, number one, what the fuck? You should go follow us. Our guy Alex, the video intern, has been putting out great content for us over there. And part of that, which this part wasn't necessarily Alex, but Greg was able to on his vacation throw out a couple of his takes. So maybe it's something you've heard, maybe it's something you haven't heard, but Greg's gonna reinforce some of those thoughts here in a second. But it's been a busy last week and a half plus. So from a Celtics perspective, let's get ourselves situated here. Additions to the Boston Celtics this year: we have George Niang, Luka Garza, Josh Minott, and Anthony Simons. Of course, Simons and Niang coming over in two different separate trades. Garza, Minott, who was just actually signed probably less than a half hour ago, basically, from the time that we recorded this. And then, of course, the Celtics draft picks in Hugo Gonzalez, Amari Williams, and I don't even know how to say the last guy's name, Max Shulga, but the last two, Williams and Shulga, are going to be two-way contracts. Hugo is already in Boston and has signed his rookie deal, so he will definitely be a part of some form of plan for the Celtics next year. And then, of course, there are other departures. There's Drew Holiday via trade. Kristaps Porzingis via trade. Luke Cornett, welcome to Texas, my guy. Backing up Wemby for the next 4 years. 4 years, $41 million. Got the bag, and a lot of people are excited for Luke, while also disappointed that he's no longer in Boston. And this one, then the last part is hasn't been official yet, but I've got Twitter pulled up as we're recording this here, 8:02 Central Time right now. Al Horford, TBD, but that TBD looking like it's probably not going to be Boston. Golden State, Los Angeles, maybe there's a few other options. We can talk about that here in a minute. But Greg, I'm turning it over to you here, man. This is the additions. These are the departures. These are a lot of things that we kind of knew in some form were coming. It stings. It sucks. It's not the sexiest thing to talk about in the world, a lot of these moves. But here we are. So let it rip with what you got.
Okay. I kind of want to start with like more big picture and how lucky we've been as fans and as people covering the team for the past 5 years since I started this podcast back in the bubble. We've had nothing but pretty much great content to kind of follow, and this is the first off season in which it's kind of bare bones in terms of like excitement for the Celtics. Like I'm trying to convince myself that Hugo Gonzalez is gonna be the dude, right? The reported 10.25-inch hands that are
big ass hands,
big ass hands, bigger.
You know what they say about big hands.
Bigger than Kawhi, can grip the ball, can do all the stuff out there. I'm excited for that dude. So I'm excited to see him play. I really am. I'm excited for Baylor Shireman. I'm excited for Jordan Walsh. I'm excited for JD Davison. I'm excited for Jaylen Brown's chance to be the number 1. I'm excited for Derek White to be the number 2. I'm excited for Peyton Pritchard to potentially start at point guard and see what he can do. I'm excited for Neemias Queta to be a starting center in the NBA. I am not excited for George Niang to be on the Boston Celtics. And I put out that video, which was actually pretty funny. So I was back in Boston. I was there just visiting family and whatnot. And we went to the Hozier concert at Fenway, which was sick. If you don't listen to Hozier, Take Me to Church is his most famous song, Too Sweet. That's
Take
probably
me to church.
There you go. Keep singing it, baby. And we go to the concert at Fenway, which was a great experience. But I was hanging out with my brother Charles, my sister Stephanie, and one of Charles's best friends who I played basketball with at Latin, which is Reggie Aluador. And we just always talk hoops. Like, this is just what we do. Like, not on the podcast. This is what we sound like. It's just like dudes sitting around talking shit, right? And my brother decides to film a live reaction of me hearing about the trade. And
wait, let me jump in for a second. You didn't ask him to do this?
No, I mean, I knew that he was recording, but I didn't really think of it as like, oh, this is social media content.
Oh, I thought you totally planned this out. All right, keep going. This is a new layer.
So he's recording, and part of me is like, oh, this is probably going to go on social media, but more, I'm drunk at the time. Let me just be real with you guys. Like, I had like 3 whiskey gingers at this point. There's even a version.
If you've seen the video, I'm pretty sure you would have guessed it.
Well, the TikTok version has the unedited first 5 seconds. I know you're not on TikTok, but literally the first 5 seconds of the video on TikTok is me going, I'm already drunk. So
okay.
Like, if you haven't seen that,
the raw uncut footage.
I cut that out for Instagram. But I just thought it was funny to see the reaction to people of me just being like, I probably shouldn't have called George Niang a fat slob. He's a professional athlete, but this is me 3 drinks deep, and I'm just, not on the podcast.
His nickname is the Minivan
with my friends. Yeah. I mean, he's not in good shape. And then at the end, Reggie just kind of like rips him apart in like very concise words. He's just like, no production, talk shit, and then it cuts to me, and I'm like, cut him, because I just like don't like the dude. And I think this is something that we continued to talk about. That was like a minute and 30 seconds of a 10-minute conversation that we had talking about the Celtics offseason. And I'm talking about George Niang. And I go back to when he tripped Jaylen Brown in the playoffs in 2023.
Dude, grabbed his knee. I like almost like I didn't like him anyways, but I forget that part. I think I kind of blocked out. And then the clip came back and he grabs his knee, like incredibly dangerous play.
Right. And there was somebody I try not to go back and forth in the comments on Instagram and whatnot, but somebody was just like talking shit to me about my reaction. And I was like, George Niang was a piece of shit, dude. Like I don't care that he's from Massachusetts. Like the way that he comported himself against the Celtics, if you're just gonna accept him because he's from Massachusetts, like, no, this dude was an asshole and like has been widely viewed as an asshole by most like God-fearing Celtics fans out there, right? And
dude, there's a lot of pushback on George Niang in Celtic Twitterverse, despite him having the Massachusetts connection.
And it starts with the bullshit with grabbing Jaylen Brown and trying to injure him, man. Like that's unforgivable as far as I'm concerned. If Jaylen can get over it and accept him, like I'll get over it too, right? But like Jaylen does not like that dude, and nobody likes that dude because he did that shit, and that's dirty. And I don't like dirty players. I don't like Joel Embiid for the shit that he did to Mitchell Robinson. I don't like Draymond Green for all the bullshit that he does. I don't like Grayson Allen for all the shit that he does. And when I see dirty players, I'm just going to call it like it is. And I don't like George Niang. I would love for him to come on the podcast so we could chat about it, and I'd be cordial to the guy. But I'd tell him straight up, I'm like, dude, like the way as a fan, the way that you like did you expect just because you're from Massachusetts, you're going to be welcomed with open arms? That's just not how I see it. That's not how most diehard Celtics fans are going to see it. We're going to remember that trip, grabbing Jaylen Brown's knee when you were riding your ass on the bench like you should be because you're not a good basketball player. Like, that's just how I feel, and I'm not going to filter it just because I am on a podcast. Like, in fact, it's going to embolden me to speak my opinion more.
Yeah, I got no follow up on that. No, I love that. I had a feeling that George Niang was gonna, your feelings towards George Niang were gonna take over a large portion of that off the rip, and we'll see if Niang even sticks around, right? Like, right now, the way that the Celtics have this set up, and this is the real quick, boring, unsexy part of all this, is it's all about these different aprons, and Brad ripped the Band-Aid off, in that first day with the Drew Holiday trade for Anthony Simons, following that up right away with that 3-team trade that ended up with KP going to Atlanta, Niang ending up here, and getting the Celtics under that second apron, which now after signing Luka Garza and Josh Minott, they're actually slightly back into that, but he's not done making moves financially. And so we'll see what that all looks like. And some of that might just be sending Niang out. Niang may never play a single second for the Celtics. So that is entirely within the realm of possibility. But, Greg, just looking at where we're at right now with the Celtics team, and we knew that there was going to be some changes, and I mentioned this speaking with Nick last time. I want to see if you agree. Like, I mean, I think it's hard not to agree to the statement, so it's not anything crazy, but there's no world in which Jason Tatum getting hurt is a good thing. But the blessing, the silver lining, or the blessing in disguise of it all, is that these decisions got a lot easier with Jason Tatum being out for, I'm going to call it the year. Maybe he's back sooner. I don't think with the way we're assembling this team that that's something that they're imminently planning on. At least that's what I'm reading into this. And so, it makes all of this a lot easier to digest, where it's like, cool, we're just resetting. Like, I can't get upset. I can't be frustrated with any of this. Like, it sucks to lose a guy like Luke Cornett, and we can talk about that. But at the end of the day, like, this is very clearly how do we reorganize, restructure, reframe this roster so that next offseason we can start to make some moves like some of these other teams that we're going to talk about. That there's been one in particular that I'm looking at that I'm very impressed with, and I think they're kind of a model of how a team like the Celtics is going to have to move. Like, this is all just a reset. And so, I think the Tatum injury, in a weird way, which is still not the best case scenario, is a somewhat blessing in disguise.
For sure. It's good to see him already back in the Celtics facility, rehabbing, meeting the rookies. I don't know if you can pull those images up as I'm talking here, Will. But I think with Luke, going to San Antonio, which is cool because we'll get to see him play a little bit. As you can see, Tatum rehabbing already, and Jaylen meeting Amari Williams, and Jason meeting Hugo Gonzalez there. I was trying to look at that image, Will, to see if we could see how big Tatum's hands are compared to Hugo, because the fact that he has bigger hands than Kawhi is just hilarious to me, because Kawhi, when you see Kawhi's hands, they just look like freakishly
He's the
big.
Claw. That's his nickname. It's based off his hand size. It's the Claw.
Right. But it's just really cool to see those guys back already in the facility, clearly signaling to everybody in Celtics Nation, like, yeah, the guys that matter but aren't the pillars of this team might be gone, but like we still got Derek White, we still got Jason Tatum, we still got Jaylen Brown. We're gonna be okay. We just might not be good this year. Right. And like
Yeah.
losing Luke Cornett is one of those unfortunate realities of a guy who played himself into such a prominent role with this team where, at the beginning of the season, we were just like, I don't know if Luke's that dude. And then by the middle of the season, we were like, Luke Cornett might be the best backup big man in the game, like best third big, maybe best third big in the game. And for him to finally be able to pay off his mortgage, because he's like tripling his career earnings with this contract, which is unbelievable for him. 4 years, over 40 million. Coming to San Antonio, getting to back up Wemby, maybe playing a little like jumbo big lineup with the 7, what is that, combined 15 feet of big man out there? Like that's some pretty special stuff. I'm just excited for him to get that opportunity to go to a great organization like the Spurs, and also just like kind of cash in on such a great time that he had with the Celtics playing under Joe Mazzulla. And this is the Brad Stevens effect all over again, baby. This is Evan Turner all over again. You play great under Brad Stevens and you go get that bag.
Go get paid. And so let me ask you this, because one of the things that Brad said in his press conference, I think it was the day after the draft, was that the next priority was trying to keep Luke and Al. Clearly, Luke is now in San Antonio. Al, we expect is likely, it's seeming less and less likely like he's going to be back, which ultimately I think kind of makes sense. Did you like my fake retirement idea for Al? Just take the year off and then come back.
It kind of got me thinking, like, maybe not a retirement, but just in general, very similar to what they did in OKC. Like you play the guys, see if like up until the All-Star break, trade deadline, you just monitor Jason Tatum. See, oh my God, Jason Tatum looks amazing. He actually might be back in April, or Jason Tatum really isn't ready to play. Let's not risk it. Let's shut everybody down. We'll just kick away this season. Don't put the miles on Derek White, Al Horford, or Jaylen Brown, and just like, let's tank for AJ, right? And maybe that's a situation in which.
And there's other, it's a loaded class next year. And the thing is, the East is so bad. I don't even know if the Celtics are going to get to the lottery, because I think they can. If you go up and down the East, even with this very much a lacking front court the Celtics are going to put out, to your point, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Baylor Scheiman, and Ninius Keita is, even though I'm not thrilled about Keita being the starting center, like we've seen this team have success with Keita in the starting lineup or playing a prominent role in regular season games. I don't think he's a championship player, but he's an 82 game guy. He's fine to get you through certain games. And so, I mean, I think it's going to be hard for the Celtics team unless other things start to go wrong, which could happen in the season. And to your point, you're going to be, oh, Jaylen has a tweak in his calf. We've seen what happens with, tweak calves or calves, whatever I'm trying to say, tweaked calves.
You got it.
There we go. I couldn't say it. Let's just shut them down for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Let's be extra cautious with everything that happens, because we don't mind if we lose a couple games. But I think it's still going to be hard for the Celtics not to be 5, 6, 7 seed in this East, because it's just that bad. Like it just really is. And so I think a tank that gets them into the lottery will be tough unless other things happen. But one of the things that I did want to ask you about Luke Cornett, just kind of circling back to him, when Brad said it was a priority, there is theoretically a way that you could have moved Hauser or Simons quicker to try to open up some money for Luke. I've been big on the Hauser should put his house on Zillow train. Like I thought he was gone. And now the way things have kind of settled and rearranged, I'm rethinking on that. And a deal that happened, I think it was earlier today, which I don't know if you saw, but Duncan Robinson got 3 years and $48 million from the Detroit Pistons. Sam Hauser's contract, which I believe his extension starts next year, is like 4 years, $45 million. So you're getting an extra year and less money for Sam Hauser, who I would argue is maybe better than Duncan Robinson. I mean, Duncan Robinson has had some ups and downs. At his best, maybe he's better than Sam Hauser. But either way, the value of that contract, I think, skews in Sam Hauser's favor. And so it makes me think that Brad knows that this is kind of a market for Sam Hauser, and that just dumping him at this point, now that you've done all the other heavy lifting, wouldn't have made sense to keep Luke Cornett Do you feel that same way, or do you think, man, losing a guy like Luke, that if we could have salary dumped, Sam to one of these teams that has space, and then found a way to keep Luke, you would have preferred that? Any thoughts on that? Because that's a move that Brad theoretically could have made.
Well, I think when you're presented with the opportunity to get under the second apron in 2 moves, as they did, and get a good young piece back in Anthony Simons, you can take a flyer on and just like somehow get out of the Kristaps Porzingis contract to get you under the second apron. It's not quite as a necessity to move Hauser. We thought it was going to have to be a 3-move offseason to get under that second apron. The fact that we did it in 2 allows you more flexibility with Sam Hauser to keep him, because he's a good asset. He's on a great contract, as you mentioned, so you don't necessarily need to move off of Hauser. And if you want to continue with Missoula ball, Sam Hauser is the perfect guy for that. You can ask him to do a little bit more. He's shown, obviously playing a lot with Jason Tatum in that second unit, that he can do a little bit of, rip through one dribble layup or floater mid-range. He has that, and he has a great basketball IQ, and he's a better defender, as we all, as Celtics fans all know, than he's given credit for. So I think he's one of those guys you keep. If at this point, if it's not a financial situation, you keep him maybe this whole season, maybe through the length of his contract, or maybe it's just through, the trade deadline this year, and see which teams out there need him.
Everybody's looking for shooting at the deadline.
Right. And you get someone to overpay and panic. And when you think of his value on the court versus Luke Cornett's value on the court, I believe Cornett's a few years older than Hauser, right? Cornett's 30, Hauser's late 20s. You can look that up, how old Hauser is. But I just think that shooting is such a premium and such a premium asset, where Luke Cornett can be replaced pretty easily. And I think if you're looking at either of those contracts and saying which of those guys is maybe slightly overpaid for what they actually are on the court, I'd probably argue it's Luke. I think he deserves that contract. But if you had to make that argument, I think that Sam is more bang for your buck, definitely more of a value contract, and Luke is probably like a little bit of an overpay for what he actually is out there. So I would vote Hauser over Cornett if you had to choose between the two, because if you're not competing this year, I'd rather have the more valuable asset.
Yeah, I think that's the way to look at it. And for the record, it's Luke's 29, Sam's 27. So not too far away in age, but yes, Sam is the younger of the two. And I think you're right. He has just the more valuable skill set that is going to get you either on court production, or in a trade market, you're going to get a better return for Sam Hauser at whatever point that may be. So we'll see, man. It's going to be an interesting year, to your original point here, before we start to look at some of the other NBA moves just around the league. Is, to your point of covering this team, I've been thinking about it over the last couple of weeks. And there's a part of me, weirdly, again, this goes back to trying to find the silver linings and not having your first team all NBA MVP candidate available and not knowing what he's going to look like when he comes back. But I'm slightly kind of looking forward to covering a team that doesn't have championship expectations, where we can actually have real conversations of what do you see out of the development of literally everybody on this roster. Because even Jaylen Brown, we've never seen Jaylen Brown for a prolonged stretch as the number one option. That's a different way to view Jaylen Brown than it is the way that we've talked about him over the last 5 years, as how does he balance being the number 2 guy? Is he definitively number 2? All the other different, conversations that we've had. Like, everybody has a different perspective that we have to look at them and then kind of project what that looks like. And I think it's going to be really fun, because basically the last year, 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, every podcast we have to come on here and just go, what does this mean about winning a championship? Like, every single conversation has to lead to the same thing, where now there's kind of different roads that they all lead to, which I actually honestly think, from a selfish podcast standpoint, that makes our jobs actually a little bit more interesting.
It's like, I mean, obviously there's a cliche of winning a championship's like making it to the top of the mountain. And like, once you're at the top of the mountain and you're expected to stay up there and everybody else is climbing up, all you can kind of do is admire the view. Right. And that's what we've been doing for the past years, just admiring the view, like, oh, yeah, that's a pretty cloud right there. Like, I really like that cloud. Oh, I think I saw that cloud yesterday. And then now we're like back at base camp and we're like, do we have the gear? Do we have the survival, traits to make it up this mountain? Which path do we want to take? Like, are we going to be free soloing it up this mountain? Are we finding us a Sherpa to bring us up this mountain? How are we getting back up there? And when are we back at base camp? And where's Jason Tatum? Right? Like that's what we're going to be looking for. And it is probably just like a little bit more. It gives us a little bit more freedom of things to talk about. But I wouldn't, trade that for championship aspirations.
That's why I feel like
I feel you with the silver linings.
I have to say it 9 different ways. Jason Tatum getting hurt, not a good thing. Jason Tatum not knowing what he's going to look like when he comes back, not a good thing. But here's this other side that I'm trying to find.
But maybe Jordan Walsh ends up being a better player than we thought. Maybe Baylor Shireman, shows a playmaking gene that allows him to be Joe Ingles. Like there's things out there that we can do.
I know we haven't had a chance to really digest some of the 2 new signings. Let's go there, just Luka Garza and Josh Minott. But any quick thoughts on those guys? I mean, Josh Minott, honestly, I don't really have much other than he seems like an athletic wing, which is something that I have been saying that I think we need some more athleticism. And then Luka Garza, just dude was a beast in college. Dude was a beast in the G League. And I think the vision for Luka Garza, and this is partially why Al Horford doesn't make as much sense on a team that's not going to be competing, is why not give those minutes to a guy like Luka Garza, who maybe you actually can find a steal in, whereas with Al, you're just wasting mileage, right? Like Luka Garza, in a best case scenario, you fix your front court later at the trade deadline or into next year, and Luka Garza is now the new Luke Cornett, that third big where you're like, yo, this guy's got some juice, or he's a backup big. Like, any thoughts just about those 2 particular guys?
No thoughts on Minott with Luka Garza. I think this is more of a reality, and I guess Minott can sort of fit into this. I don't really think the kid has much of a future in the league, to be honest with you. I'd be really surprised. I think this is the reality of where the Celtics are in terms of like this year. They're a developmental pit stop for like a bunch of young players out there. And I think
Maine Celtics and Boston Celtics get on the shuttle. They're going to be going back and forth a lot, up and down. I don't know if that's I-95 or whichever interstate that is.
I think like Anthony Simons is like the top end idea of this. Like he gets a 1-year trial run to showcase himself. Luka Garza is more of like the low end where he gets to, finally get an opportunity after being a national player of the year in college and 2-time Big Ten player of the year. Like he was definitely like college basketball royalty, right? So he gets his first opportunity to really showcase that in the NBA. He's had the opportunities in the G League, but so have a lot of guys on the Celtics. JD Davison, G League MVP, Neemias Queta, G League MVP. Like these guys have done it at the G League level, and now they get the opportunity to actually test themselves against NBA level competition. And when you look around the league, there are so many of these great G League success stories. The main one being Pascal Siakam, who's just playing in his second NBA Finals, right? Those guys do exist, and you hope that the Celtics can find one of those diamonds in the rough, and that is what this season is all about for the Celtics organization and for all of these players that are out there just looking for their opportunity in a league that's just loaded with talent and screaming for an expansion team, right? Like this is their first real opportunity to do so. And it's, Jaylen Brown has that opportunity, as I mentioned. Peyton Pritchard has that opportunity, all up and down the roster. So I'm excited for these guys. I think Luka Garza, when I saw you texted Celtics got Luka, I was like, that's a joke. And then I was like, oh, there's another Luka in the league. I forgot about that. So it's cool to see him. I'm excited to see the kid play because I liked him in college, and I think he's definitely got some offensive pop to him. So it'll be fun to see him play under Missoula. I'm excited to see him play. Like these are like, dude, I was a diehard Celtics fan when the Celtics sucked, right? So I don't really care if the Celtics have championship.
We still got it in us. We were born in this. I was gonna try and do a Bane impression there, but I don't know exactly where we're going there. But
it didn't come.
But yeah, it wasn't gonna go. In my head, I was gonna do it, but I don't really know where.
What's funny, dude? Speaking of impressions, ever since I've like kind of showcased that I can do a decent Obama impression, everybody at work just wants me to like talk, anytime like something comes up, like, yeah, Greg, but you could do it as Obama. And I'm like, okay, we could definitely do it.
Give me, let's do this. Let's move to the larger NBA. Give me a team that you want to talk about, but do it as Obama.
All right, let's see. Let's actually pull up one of the clips here. All right, we're gonna start with the Atlanta Hawks. So Atlanta, they come into this offseason, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker agrees to a 4-year deal via sign and trade, stealing him from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And when you pair him with a Dyson Daniels, that's a monster defensive backcourt. What do you think?
Well done, Mr. President. Well done. That was good. That was, and it helped that. And this is for those of you not watching on YouTube and kind of like just giving you some behind the scenes. Greg couldn't see my face. I couldn't see his face there because the graphic covers it. So it's probably good because I think you might have fumbled more if you were able to see my face. But there's no pressure. It's good.
A 7'4" Latvian and Kristaps Porzingis shoots the three, and Luke Kennard, who also one of the best 3-point shooters. And you know I love those lefties. You got that lefty stroke. And Luke Kennard, I almost said Cornette. Luke Kennard can shoot that thing. And now you pair him with Trae Young. I think that the Atlanta Hawks are a sleeper pick in the Eastern Conference. They got hope.
Nice job adding in the hope. I think it's the pauses. The pauses are the big of the Luke Kennard. That's like the little piece of it that I was like, that's what really sells it. Really sells it on there. But well done. Let me give you a golf clap here on the podcast.
It's decent.
Atlanta Hawks. Yeah. You texted me, or we were texting with, I think maybe our buddy Liptak or somebody about hey, what is the East gonna look like next year? I think maybe this is like Game 7 of the finals, and you're like, Hawks are gonna be sneaking. This is before a lot of these moves, even happen. And listen, the East is gonna be bad. I think the Hawks look like a top 5-6 team just with their roster. I don't know, man. For me, it still comes down to, you have Trae Young, who on defense, I don't think you're doing anything special with Trae Young on defense. You're also relying on Kristaps Porzingis. We just lived through that. Like, listen, he had one good playoff game in 2 years. It is what it is. Like, I understand, like, Kristaps was cool to have. I enjoyed it. WWF entrance when he came in during the finals. It was awesome. He had some regular season moments that were really cool that lifted a ceiling, but you're going to trust that. Okay. And I think the only thing that would ever really make me change my mind on the Hawks is, and I do like their pickups. I think they've had a great offseason. Like, I do think Porzingis for 1 year is worth the risk, and Luke Kennard is a sneaky good pickup, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker is just a good pickup. Like, I think that was just an awesome move.
Listen, Will, when you have finals aspirations like the Atlanta Hawks do, you need guys to guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they've got two of the best, Dyson Daniels and Shai's cousin, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Listen, if I had to bet on one team to make the finals out of the East that like nobody saw coming, I'm betting on the Atlanta Hawks. I'm not even bullshitting you. I think that like with Trae Young showing that he can already lead a team to the Eastern Conference Finals, Kristaps Porzingis now providing some backline defense with some great wing defenders. Like, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a top 10 wing defender in the league. Dyson Daniels is a top 5. Jalen Johnson is one hell of a player. I think
that was the one guy I was going to mention. He's the X factor for me, where if he's because he was on track to be an all-star, or at worst a fringe all-star last year before he got hurt. If he becomes something, which I think there's potential, I really like Jalen Johnson. That's the swing factor for me, where I can buy into it. But if he's just good, which is nothing wrong with that, I don't know. But that's the guy.
I agree. And I'm already penciling him in to be like all-star, borderline all-NBA talent. I really like him. I think he is what I was hoping Scotty Barnes would be. Like, I think he's completely surpassed Scotty Barnes in my mind in terms of like winning basketball player.
Dude, why does Scotty Barnes get so much? I feel like Scotty Barnes has gone, like, I think he's had some pretty good years, but I feel like everyone's thought of, or like where they tier him out or view him in the league has gone down considerably in the last year and a half, 2 years. And I don't fully get that. I don't really understand what the Raptors are doing. That's a whole separate thing. But I think Scotty Barnes himself has been really good. Like, I don't know. I don't know about that yet.
That's just how I feel. I think that I was the biggest Scotty Barnes guy there is out there. And I think that what I've seen from him over the last couple of years, I just was expecting more of a leap. I would when I saw him as a rookie, I was like, that's year 2 Giannis. He didn't have the growth spurt that Giannis had, but I was just expecting more out of him. And I think Jalen Johnson's a guy that I initially saw flashes and I was like, oh, interesting. And he just, like most improved type player, just completely taking over games at times with his athleticism. and he's got a little bit of a playmaking gene in there. And I just think that he can dominate games purely off of being a physical freak. It's interesting. I'm not like saying he's anywhere near Paolo, but if we took three guys that are kind of the same mold, Scotty Barnes, Paolo, and Jalen Johnson, like all big wings that can be playmakers, I think I would probably say at this point, Jalen Johnson is closer to Scotty Barnes than he is to Paolo, but I wouldn't be surprised if by midseason I was saying it was actually the other way. That's how high I believe in Jalen Johnson. He's been hurt the last 2 years, right? He had like a shoulder injury and I think a foot or a knee injury. So he's missed the last two ends of the campaigns. So I'm excited to see him get a full season there. And then you got number 1 pick last year, Reese Shea, who, I'm not super big on, but he definitely has a good amount of talent. They still got Okongwu. I think that they have all of the pieces that you need to cover for Trae Young. And then you still got Trae Young, who can be that engine of your offense. So I really like the man. And I wouldn't be saying this if the Celtics were the same Celtics team as last year, but there's just so many question marks in the East, man. And we can get into some of them right now, but you're telling me.
Let me ask you this quick right now. Rank them: Hawks, Magic, Pistons.
Magic, Hawks, Pistons.
Magic, Hawks. I actually can't agree. I can't disagree with that too much. I feel like the Pistons have kind of taken. I can't say they've taken a step back because they're getting Jaden Ivey back, but obviously Malik Beasley, who another report came out right before we logged on to this. Apparently, this dude is in some debt. It seems like this is a real gambling issue. Yeah, apparently he's like several million in debt. He had a dentist that was collecting through his NBA paychecks and stuff. And I haven't read the full articles yet, just some of the headlines.
A dentist?
Yeah, just he had unpaid bills, and somehow this dentist was able to collect through his paycheck. That's how bad it was. It was just I don't know how that worked.
I feel like I have maybe noticed his teeth, he's got some veneers or something.
Possibly. Doesn't look like he paid for him, but yeah, but he has them. So good luck getting that back. But yeah, so I mean, I think with the Pistons, and they lost Tim Hardaway, we'll see. I still really like the Pistons, but they haven't really done much. Whereas the Hawks and Magic have definitely made some upgrades. Magic, Desmond Bane trade, which we already touched on, and then they added Tyus Jones, our guy, just as a backup point guard. Love that as some Jalen Suggs insurance right there. So been a good season for those. So yeah, but I do think you're right that the Hawks are going to be in that mix with the Celtics and Pacers, who also have now lost Miles Turner. They've lost Halliburton for the season. Miles Turner going to the Bucks. And let's talk about this. There's other teams that I want to talk to that I think I've really liked their offseason, but the Bucks have had an interesting offseason here with now adding in Miles Turner to the mix. Miles Turner and Gary Harris, really the two new players that are coming in. Departures, Pat Connaughton gone, Brook Lopez to the Clippers. Great move by the Clippers, getting Brook Lopez. That's a tremendous backup for Zubac. And then Damian Lillard waived, in my opinion, what is one of the most desperate moves that I've ever seen, which the Bucks have been in desperation mode, which I've been calling out since they traded Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. And that at that point, they signed their death certificate of their time with Giannis. It's just a matter of when. And there's conflicting reports of whether or not Giannis was contacted about this move. And so I don't know what's true or what's not true. But basically, for those listening, when they waived and stretched Damian Lillard, what happens is he has $113 million left. So for the next 5 years, which is very appropriate, as we're recording this on July 1st, also known as Bobby Bonilla Day for those who celebrate, where he gets $1 million every year over a 25-year pan for a deferred contract.
Shout out to our guy Mark McDonough, who every year texts us Happy Bobby Bonilla Day. It goes Halloween 1, Bobby Bonilla Day 2, as far as WrestleMania is right.
WrestleMania is maybe 3 right there. It's close. That and Bobby Bonilla Day are in a heated contest. But so with Dame, the Bucks are going to absorb, and this was something that did make the rounds in Celtics Nation as far as an option for Kristaps to do this, where they maybe take that $30 million and make it $10 million over a couple years. But with Dame, what they're going to do now is, I think it's roughly about $22.5 million every year for the next 5 years is going to live on their cap sheet. So essentially, they have a $22.5 million player that is not there, that is not doing anything, cannot be moved, cannot do anything for the next 5 seasons in order for them to sign Miles Turner. Greg, I like Miles Turner. I've been a big Miles Turner defender. What the fuck are they thinking? I'm sorry. I just don't I know this is a desperation move to give you a chance in the weak East that we just laid out, but I still think the Bucks whole roster's pretty trash around Giannis. Like I don't think this actually does much. And now you're completely, handicapping yourselves, even if Giannis decides to stay beyond the next, I think he's got 2 years on his contract. So even if you guys just go full stalemate and don't move him, like you're then handicapped for 3 more years with a very valuable $22 million spot that cannot be done, cannot have anything done with. I don't know what the Bucks are doing. And honestly, like, if you're a Celtics fan, you're like, this isn't much fun of an offseason. It's way worse to be a Bucks fan right now.
So we've got it pulled up here on the screen for everybody that is listening on the pod right now. This section, as we're going through some of like the key teams this offseason. You might want to head over to YouTube to check it out because we've got the graphics pulled up here. It might be easier for you to follow along. So the Bucks, here's what they've done this offseason. They've re-signed Kevin Porter Jr., who was basically out of the league. Bobby Portis agrees on a 3-year extension. Bobby Portis doesn't play like a defense, good offensive player, always going to be in the running for 6th man of the year, but one trick pony. Taurean Prince, 2-year deal. I talked to a Bucks fan at work today. He couldn't even remember his name. He was like the guy with the braids that looks like Predator. He was like, I don't know if I like him. Jericho Sims, good athlete, but he's a whatever player. Gary Trent Jr. is probably like the biggest value add here because they got him on, I think, a minimum deal. And he saw in the playoffs, he can actually shoot that thing. So still young too, I think 26 years old. They bring in Micic. They trade Pat Connaughton to the Hornets to get Micic, who is a point guard, who's a good European point guard, but he's not going to play.
No, I think he's just staying in Europe, and they're going to defer some of the contract. It's going to save the money.
Okay, good to know. Miles Turner, 4-year deal. I mean, he's a Brook Lopez replacement. And as Brett Hazard, who's on the pod, Pacers fan, he said, well, they lost their shooting guard in Damian Lillard, and they got their shooting guard in Miles Turner, because that's all he thinks Miles Turner is a 7-foot shooting guard. And then Gary Harris agrees to a 2-year deal. It's like, why are we bringing in the same type of player here? Like, what is Gary Harris adding to this team? You couldn't find somebody else that could add something to the team other than Gary Harris, who hasn't done shit in the league since he left the Nuggets. Like, I don't really understand that move. But if you're looking at this year as the 1 year that you probably have left to make a run with Giannis, I guess you did something. And like,
I mean, you can't say they're not trying. I don't know if they're doing it well, but they're trying, right? Yeah. Like that's
they're probably kind of better than they were last year. I would say they're better than they were last year.
I mean, post deadline, yeah, and Dame getting hurt, right? Because Dame's not on this team now, right? So that team that
they're better today than they were yesterday. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, not by much, but yes, not by enough to.
Dude, Miles Turner was great in the playoffs, man.
I'm a Miles guy. Hook 'em horns. Like, how I feel about Miles Turner. And at this point in his career, he's better than Brook Lopez, right? Like Brook Lopez probably 3 years ago was the better player. Miles Turner is better, so you're getting an upgrade on that front. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's at the end of the day, you're just delaying the inevitable, and this is where, honestly, it's if I were in the Bucks, it's easy to say when you're not in the Bucks shoes and you have Giannis, who in my opinion is the second best player in the world. It's easier to say it from afar than it is when you're right in the mix. Like, your best path to just, it sucks to say, it would have been to trade Giannis and try to find an expiring way to get off of Dame without having to eat that money. Like, that honestly would have been better for your franchise long term. But
here's the thing, Will. Like, all of the contracts that they have on their books now, I think are good contracts. Like, Dame was a bad contract. So like it sucks having the 22 million on their sheet for the next 5 years, but I don't think any of the signings that they had, like, they're not going to be able to move, or they're going to like commit it to long term. So I think if they decide to go blow it up, they still have some pieces they could potentially move. People will want Bobby Portis. People will want Miles Turner. So I think they still have moves out there. They're not dead in the water.
That's fair. That's a fair point. It just, it's the clock's ticking on Giannis in a Bucks uniform. The day's coming. It's just a matter of when at this point. I mean, and I think we've known this, in my opinion, since they traded Middleton. That was, you signed the deed. Now you're just, I don't know, you're just delaying the inevitable. But yeah, weird day for the Bucks. Dame Lillard now a free agent, so he's on the market. So we'll see. He's in the same situation though as Jason Tatum, but much older. And so we'll see what that looks like. He may sign with the team. I saw earlier the Warriors were meeting with him.
That'd be interesting, man. back to the Bay.
Yeah, back to the Bay. Could be a good way to kind of end his career. You have Dame and Steph on the same team. That would be pretty interesting. Let me go to a couple teams there's two teams, Greg, I think that have really stood out this offseason that have just been absolutely crushing it. Do you want to talk about the Rockets or the Nuggets? Which one?
Rockets. Rockets.
Let's go to the Rockets because I am so all in on everything that the Rockets have done. I think the Rockets are just crushing this offseason. So just running through it here real quick. Re-signing Steven Adams, Aaron Holiday, Jeff Green, Jabari Smith on a fully 5-year guaranteed contract extension. I believe it's about $25 million, which I think that's a great value on both sides. I think he still has room to grow. I'm a big Jabari Smith guy. I think he's going to turn into I was thinking about this earlier, a Derek White, Aaron Gordon facsimile on a top contending team, meaning he's that top versatile role player, probably never a star player, but I think he's going to be that top versatile role player that connects on different sides of the ball. Love having Jabari Smith there on that contract.
How do you feel about him versus Scotty Barnes?
Scotty Barnes is the better player. I think.
I was kidding.
Yeah, I see what you're doing there. Fred VanVleet, 2-year extension. I think they did a great job here. This was a team option for $44 million. They reworked it 2 years, $50 million player option for him next year, gave them more flexibility to then go ahead and do the following: add Clint Capella, add Dorian Finney-Smith, which I think is a phenomenal add. And of course, they added Kevin Durant while sending out just Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green, and the 10th pick, and kept all of their other assets, including 2 different Suns picks and some other great picks they have.
And
so the Rockets are set up. And they kept Reed Shepherd. And so the Rockets are just loaded for right now to be, I think, what is a top 3 team in the West, and to be able to make moves if, as we just mentioned, if Giannis comes available, they still have plenty of pieces to try to make that happen and or make whatever other moves they might go to. I think this has been just such a grand slam of an offseason for the Rockets. I'm obsessed with everything they've done. Just no notes for the Rockets.
The first question I had, and I know other people have talked about this as well, was why would you re-sign Steven Adams when you're getting Clint Capella and getting 2 centers when you already have Şengün, who's going to take up most of your minutes at the 5? The more I thought about it, I think it's just versatility and roster versatility, where with Şengün and Steven Adams, they're both ground-bound bigs. Neither of them can jump, right? And you need a vertical spacer. You need a lob threat. And I think that's what Clint Capella offers, is you have that extra chess piece that you can move around the board and go high pick and roll with somebody rolling hard to the rim, right? So that's kind of how I see it. You're probably paying too much to add that piece because Clint Capella really hasn't been that guy in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth the gamble going back to Houston, a place where he was beloved and had a really good time there. So I think it makes sense. And when you think of some of the lineups that they can throw out there with the size and the defensive versatility, the Dorian Finney-Smith gets to slide into like a better role for him where he's playing 15 to 20 minutes instead of being like a member of a closing 5.
He was so important to the Lakers last year.
It didn't make much sense.
He was arguably their, I mean, it's probably Reeves is their 3rd most important player, but he was arguably right there next to Reeves because of what he gave on both sides of the ball.
Right. And I just think this team's going to be really fun. It all depends on Kevin Durant, right? Can Kevin Durant still be that guy when it matters? I would bet yes. He hasn't shown too many signs of decline, in my opinion, other than like, can he stay healthy? So he
just has to do so much less. Like, this is a team that is just like, I mean, I loved watching the Rockets last year until the last 5 minutes of a game. It was some of the most brutal basketball to watch in the last 5 minutes of a close game with them, unless once every 6 games, Fred VanVleet just went on a heater and it was like, oh, okay, this could work. Maybe like once in a while. Right. And just if Kevin Durant just has to focus on hopefully, getting through the season healthy, which is the big if, and then just getting buckets, like he doesn't need to be everything like he had to be at the end for Brooklyn and in his Phoenix run where it's just him and Booker. They have the ball all the time. Like other guys are able to handle the ball here. Other guys are able to, the Phoenix didn't have a center for a long time, right? Like he had to.
Now they do. Now they got 2 of them.
They got the Hornets. Yeah, they're the new Hornets. Yeah, and so and so I just think with the role that KD has to play, it's a no-brainer. And then worst case scenario is if KD's hurt, you're left with, especially when you're bringing in Finney-Smith to kind of replace Dylan Brooks and Reed Shepard is jumping into the Jalen Green minutes, you're just back to being a fun young team with nice upside. Like you're like that's the worst case scenario if KD doesn't work out or the injuries persist, is you're back to just getting, you're still going to be a good team, a solid team, maybe not a championship team, but you're just getting a ton of valuable minutes and experience for all your young guys. So it's just a no downside situation in my opinion.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about two more teams here. Let's go to the Nuggets because I know this is a team that you definitely wanted to talk a little bit about, and then I want to end talking about the Cavs. If we have time, we can talk Celtics Summer League, and I do want to ask a question to you at the end, so I want to save that question for the very end. But let's go to what the Nuggets did this offseason here. So this is something that you've been really high on, right? So they didn't re-sign anybody, but they did bring back a really big piece in Bruce Brown, who hasn't really been the same guy since he left for a 2-year, $40 million contract a couple of years back. The big move, obviously, MPJ in the trade for Cam Johnson. They get basically the same player at half the price. Tim Hardaway Jr., who I'm not high on, but I know you like a little bit more than I do. And then Valanciunas, they finally bring in a viable backup center. Dario Saric was traded for him. And Saric just didn't work out for them. They were hoping that he would, and he didn't. Excuse me, I got a phone call. Apologize. That's our guy Mario. Mario's calling. What do you think Mario's calling?
I don't know. He was actually just calling me as well too, and he did it twice. That's why I just turned my phone off because it kept. Do
you think he's watching right now?
Headphones up. He might be. If you are, shout out, man. Sorry, I'll
shout out Mario
when we get done with this.
That's amazing. Yeah, but I think that this is definitely one of the better off seasons here, and I just love that they're going for it. Because they took the Thunder to 7 games, and they probably weren't a very good team last year, and they took the Thunder to 7 games. So I think bringing in these pieces, I think that they could beat the Thunder next year, and that's all you're looking for.
I mean, dude, this is the team that I kind of referenced at the beginning of the podcast. That if there is a team that have to look at as, man, I feel like we don't have a lot of options. How do we try to make our team better? It's what this Nuggets team did, where essentially what they did was just take Michael Porter Jr. and they took Dario Saric, and then they turned them into all the guys that you listed with. I mean, it seemingly they had almost no options going into the offseason. And then all of a sudden they're leaving with Cam Johnson. They're leaving with Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway. And like, to your point, I don't think Tim Hardaway is anything crazy, but on this team, he's going to be your 8th guy playing off of Jokic. And if you're playing off of Jokic, add 5, 6, 7, 8 bonus points to whatever,
and
to whoever you are as a player.
A veteran, and where you don't have to rely on a Julian Strawther. You can just go. You can go.
Although Strawther won them that, what is it, game 6 or something?
I like Strawther. I like Strawther.
He's got potential.
He's like a light-skinned Buddy Hield.
Yeah, they got similar features.
Yeah, they do.
And then Jonas Valanciunas. And the one thing I will say is, we haven't talked. We mentioned at the beginning that Al Horford's TBD and is likely not going to be on the Celtics team. This was the spot where I wanted. If Al's going to leave the Celtics, too. This was the spot that I wanted him. It's not going to happen now. They went and got.
That's the thing that
Valanciunas, but
I know that they drafted that young center who got hurt. I can't remember his name. Last year, do you remember?
Oh, Deron Holmes.
Right. So he was unable to play this year. But the one thing that I was really hoping for that team was that they would be able to have a center that could be a little bit more versatile out on the perimeter because Jokic can't, right? Yeah. So that's what Horford could provide for them. And Valanciunas is purely a drop big. Yeah.
Yeah, Horford I thought was so perfect for this team for the reasons that you mentioned. Think about, all you need is a guy that can play 12 minutes when Jokic isn't out there, and then he can actually play with Jokic too, right? So he can also spell Aaron Gordon. And so now you just had this really nice, working ecosystem of those 3 guys. And I really thought that was going to be Al's best chance at getting another ring was going there. And so I was a little disappointed. I still think it's a great offseason by the Nuggets to be able to make the move they made. And, let me just ask you, in a vacuum right now, like, do you think Michael Porter or Cam Johnson's better for the Nuggets?
Cam Johnson. I think that Michael Porter is a guy who has aspirations of being a number 2, maybe a number 1 on a team, which is delusional. And they're asking him. they're asking him to play a very specific role, which he was good at. He had some really good moments for the Nuggets, but he wanted to do more, right? Cam Johnson is just very content playing this role and probably can play it as well as Michael Porter Jr. and add a little bit more defense than Porter Jr. can add. Porter Jr. is bigger than him. Cam Johnson isn't a really good defender, but I think he's a better defender than Michael Porter Jr. So I think that it's just an overall upgrade when you don't even take you don't take salaries into effect. Will, I just got an update. I just wanted to throw this out there.
Yeah.
Dude, Red Panda got hurt.
Oh, I saw that. She went down with a wrist injury. It's a tough season out here for injuries. I did see that. I don't know if she's at a WNBA game or what.
WNBA game. She fell off her unicycle and appeared to injure her wrist, along with being generally shaken up. She tried to get up to walk off the court, but medical personnel attended to her and then brought out a wheelchair for her.
Ooh,
End of an era.
I'm just watching it right here. This is it's the WNBA Commissioner's Cup. Didn't know they had that, but WNBA Commissioner's Cup, and even dude, Father Time catch. We'll talk about Al Horford. Father Time catches up with all, even Red Panda here. So tough to see Red Panda go down. Our guy Al Horford. Hopefully you don't meet the same fate, and I don't know. I hope he finds a happy home. Where would you want now that Nuggets are off the board? Where would you want to see Al go if it's not back to the Celtics?
Not the Lakers.
No, I don't think it makes sense.
We can save our thoughts on the Lakers till something actually happens with them, but whatever's going on there is kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, because nothing has happened. So that's right. We should save our thoughts. There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah. The Warriors, maybe just because I love Steph, so I would like to see him have one more ride.
Bunch of old guys going for it one last time.
Definitely in the West.
Dre, Steph, Jimmy.
I want him in the West.
I saw something where I think it was if he goes to the Warriors, out of their top 10-man rotation, 4 guys are going to be 35 and older, 5 guys are going to be 25 and younger, and then Buddy Hield. He's just in the middle. He's just in his own.
Buddy being Buddy. Buddy's the man. All right. Well, we can save any other teams for another podcast. I don't know if we're going to do another one this week, but
you said the Cavs. Let's do the Cavs real quick, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay, let's do the Cavs. Can you pull it up?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. So this was interesting. Cavs decide basically between Sam Merrill and Ty Jerome, and they decide to keep Sam Merrill. Ty Jerome ends up going to the Grizzlies. Sam Merrill, probably a little bit of a better defender, more of a role player in that he's a movement shooter. Ty Jerome's going to be a little bit more ball dominant, was in the running for 6th man of the year. I don't know how you feel about that. I felt like Ty Jerome was probably the better asset to keep there. And then they bring in Lonzo Ball in a trade with the Bulls. Isaac Okoro heads out to the Bulls for Lonzo Ball. And then Larry Nance Jr. is kind of a nothing player at this point. So he's on the team now too. What are your thoughts on that, man? I would have chosen Jerome over Merrill.
Disagree. I think, especially after adding Lonzo, I think Merrill makes more sense. It's the Sam Hauser case of the value. And even though I think Ty Jerome's the better player, I think once you add Lonzo Ball in, I mean, we've talked about this a bunch with the Cavs. You're small with Darius Garland and you're replacing him small with Ty Jerome. Like, I just don't like not having that versatility. Now, oh shit, they're picking on Darius Garland. Let's go bring in Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball's 6'6", 6'7". He can shoot the ball. He's got a great IQ. Of course, he's still coming back from injury, and I know he was kind of trending up towards the end with the Bulls, but he's also got a very manageable contract. I think it's $10 million this year, $10 million next year. So you factor in the contract, you factor in the size, and I know Ty Jerome didn't get crazy paid, but I'd rather keep the shooting in Sam Merrill, which I think is a pretty decent comp to everything that we said about Sam Hauser earlier in the podcast about, hey, I like move him, cool. He's either a sweetener or some team needs shooting. You can have versatility with him. I just don't like having multiple small guards. I don't even really like having one small guard unless they're really, really good. And I think Darius Garland is, and I think he tries on defense, but I think Lonzo, I love that move with getting him for Okoro. Bulls, whatever the hell they're doing. I don't know what this move does for them. And I don't know if you've seen the list of all the guys that they've had and all the returns they've gotten. That front office stinks. They just are abysmal. And, with Lonzo, Okoro was playing or barely playing for the Cavs, and then get everything the same out of DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade, Sam Merrill. The 3 of them are going to give them more than whatever Okoro was giving them.
Wade?
Dean Wade. And yeah, and I think Lonzo, this was a guy that, if the Celtics were ever to get into the Bulls mix here with some of these, ways that they were going to have to offload salary, that was a guy I would love to just get like a free swing at, right? Because if Lonzo has something, Lonzo's IQ is amazing, right? He's an unbelievable passer. Like, it's just a matter of where is his health going to get back to. And so I'd rather take the gamble with Lonzo, because I think if he is available, having that size as a changeup to Darius Garland is way more valuable than just going Darius Garland to Ty Jerome.
All valid points. I want to bring up a couple comments here from A. Dot, who's been very active in the chat tonight. He says there has to be another trade brewing in Cleveland. Maybe this is where the LeBron thing comes up. He says Garland, Spida with Lonzo off the bench. John Krieger says Minnesota's coaching is shaky. So coming back to the Celtics move, I like them poaching the back end of the roster with Garza in mind. Shout out to you guys for commenting. Shout out to all the people that have been active in the chat. My issue with the Lonzo thing, Will, is I don't think this is the best place for Lonzo. I think the best place for Lonzo would have been Indiana. I think Lonzo sliding into the Halliburton role while Halliburton recovers, I think that would have been a really interesting stopgap, because I think Halliburton is everything that Lonzo was billed to be coming out of college. So I just would have liked to see him in that type of offense. Just selfishly, I would have really loved to see Lonzo there, just to see how much of Halliburton he could have been with that Pacers team and in that system. But I think it's a great move for the Cavs. I feel you on that. When you just think Merrill versus Jerome, I think it's Jerome 7 days out of 7. But when you go Merrill plus Lonzo instead of Jerome, I definitely hear your point. Okay, cool. Last question I had for you before we get out of here.
Let's do it.
You texted me this weekend and you asked me the best way to watch fights. And I shared with you some websites in which you could watch fights. What fights were you watching, my man?
I was surprised you didn't ask me at the time. So my family was the Mexican side of my family was in town meeting.
Don't tell me you were watching Jake Paul.
That's exactly who it was. He was fighting Chavez.
Yeah.
And so my Mexican family wanted to watch. And so I honestly, here's the thing. I got it streaming on, I forget whichever one that you gave me, had it up, watched one or two of the pre-fights. My brother-in-law Kike was the one that first asked about it, and then he got tired and left, and then I got tired and went to bed because I didn't give a shit about the fight. And so only my other brother-in-law Lalo and my mother-in-law and my aunt-in-law, I guess, they stayed up and watched the fight. I went to bed, so I didn't even watch it. I streamed it, threw it on the TV, had a beer, and within 45 minutes, I was like, you know what? I have people here to help me out with my child right now, which we haven't had since we got home. So I'm going to bed. I have no desire to watch this fight.
Good call.
And I think I woke up the next day. I think Jake Paul won pretty handily.
Chavez is washed up at this point. Okay, interesting. So the kid from his nickname is Kid Austin, Floyd Schofield, fought on that card. He won his fight against Tevin Farmer, so he's going to be up in the conversation for a belt. Probably going to fight maybe Shakur Stevenson or somebody like that. I know they're trying to holler at Tank Davis, but that's a kid. If you don't know Floyd Schofield, if you're listening here, go check him out. His Instagram is Kid Austin. I've kind of like watched him be just like this kid in the gym with his dad boxing to like one of the best, young boxers in the world. So I think that's pretty cool. I thought you were going to say that you watched a UFC event, which was also on Saturday night, which was an amazing event. A couple Brazilian fighters on there, which I thought is why you were reaching out, because Charles Oliveira, who got knocked out in the first round by Ilia Topuria. If you don't know Ilia Topuria, we'll look up his highlights. Holy shit.
I think I heard Rosillo and Simmons talk about this on their podcast on Sunday. It's the only reason why this is even ringing a bell.
Yeah, he is special. He is special. Drawing a lot of comparisons to Conor McGregor on his, just like the rise of Topuria. He's knocked out 3 legends in his past 3 fights, so it's been pretty special. And then there's a flyweight, I think is the division, Alejandra Pantoja, who's like another Brazilian dude, was amazing. Another Brazilian dude who goes by the name RoboCop literally almost killed a guy in the ring. I'm in the octagon, and like throughout the night they were giving medical updates. They were like, oh, Jack Hermanson is now conscious. Jack Hermanson is now like now in the hospital. Jack Hermanson has been cleared. So there's a lot of great Brazilian fighters on the card, which is why I was thinking you were reaching out, but alas, it was not meant to be.
How many weight classes, UFC or boxing, do you think you could rattle off right now?
Definitely not boxing. There's so many weight classes in boxing, but
is UFC not quite the same, or is there less?
Yeah, I mean they have basically
This is
it
why I
goes
asked, because this is like part of
125. There are names for all
part
of
of the
them.
non-appeal for me. Is
Yeah,
how
but
many classes there are.
right. Yeah, boxing it's like every 5 pounds, but it's 125, 135, 145, 155, 170, 185, 205, and then heavyweight. So it's not that much. And there's names for each of them: flyweight, bantamweight, um, lightweight. I think I'm missing one in between there. Welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight. I think those are all of them. Yeah, but there's definitely some good fights coming up. Dustin Poirier is one of my favorite fighters. Is fighting this dude Max Holloway next month, so going to be interesting.
I'll tell you what. I'll make this commitment to you right now. Pick a fight this summer that you think I need to watch that we can then talk about on the podcast and see if this changes it. And I'll come watch it with you, and we'll just see how it goes. But you pick the fight. You have my commitment. I'll make sure I get it approved with the wifey, and we'll have a couple drinks and we'll watch a fight, and we'll recap it here for everybody. Summer content, baby. We gotta fill the void.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys for rocking with us here. Obviously, it is 4th of July weekend, so this will be the only podcast for this week. Unless something crazy happens, then maybe we'll find a way to get something up. But otherwise, we will be back with you guys next week. July 6th is actually the first day a lot of these trades can go official. So if you're looking around on different trade machines, trying to see what's going on, a lot of things have not been officially updated. So hopefully by probably middle of next week, we'll have a little bit more movement and a few more things to talk about. So stay tuned. Make sure you're locked in with us. Instagram, TikTok. Greg's over there spewing nonsense at George Niang. Make sure that you guys are up to date with all of the latest beefs. Following us at Green MB Pod, wherever you can find us. Subscribe, like, smash it. Love you guys. Peace.